Hi, this is Noah Zerby. Welcome back to my Model United Nations video series. This video series focuses on preparing students to be familiar with the rules of debate used at the Model United Nations of the Far West Conference, held every April in San Francisco. While this video focuses on the rules for MUNFW, the basic concepts of parliamentary procedure are applicable to Model United Nations conferences more generally. In this video, we'll look at the precedence or the relative priority for consideration of motions. Under rules of parliamentary procedure, certain motions will trump other motions during debate. While this video focuses on the priority of specific motions relevant for the Model United Nations of the Far West, the underlying concept, that is, the idea that certain motions are privileged and take precedence over other motions, can be found in every set of parliamentary procedure rules. The motions with the highest priority, and thus always being in order, are P25 point of information and P25 point of personal privilege. These motions are always in order regardless of what the committee is currently doing. This is to ensure that member states and delegates can ask questions of the chair through points of information necessary to clarify and understand the work of the body. It's also intended to ensure that delegates are comfortable in the function and in a functional environment through points of personal privilege. These motions are in order during every phase of debate. Other motions around suspension, adjournment, postponement, and closure are subject to strict precedence, such that a motion with a higher priority will always be considered before a motion with a lower priority, even if the motion of a lower priority was proposed first. Further, these motions are not always in order. Thus, a motion to suspend the meeting during voting block, for example, would be declared out of order by the chair. Nevertheless, in the other phases of debate, a P27 suspension of the meeting always has the highest priority. If multiple P27s are proposed, they are considered in the order that they were proposed. The next highest precedent goes to a P27 adjournment of the meeting. And after that is P28 postponement of debate, then a P30 adjournment to the next phase of debate. Finally, a P29 closure of the agenda item has the lowest priority of all motions. So let's say you're in committee session and a P30 has just been called to adjourn from substantive debate to voting block. Then another delegate calls for a P28 to postpone debate on that topic. Then a third delegate calls for a P27 suspension of the meeting for 15 minutes, while a fourth calls for a P27 suspension of the meeting for 30 minutes, and finally a fifth delegate calls for a P29 to close the agenda item. What order would these motions be handled in? First, the committee would vote on the 15-minute suspension, since P27 has the highest priority. If that motion failed, the committee would then vote on the 30-minute suspension. If either of the P27 motions passed, the committee would immediately go into suspension. Any remaining P27s would be nullified, but any other motions would remain on the floor and would be voted on after the break. The next highest priority would be the P28 to postpone debate on the topic. If that motion passed, debate would be postponed and the committee would move on to the next agenda item, returning to whatever phase of debate it left. Any remaining motions that had not been voted on would no longer be considered. But if the P28 motion failed, the committee would thus next vote on the P30 to adjourn to the next phase of debate, in this case, voting block on the current topic. If the P39 passed, the motion to close the agenda item would be considered irrelevant by the chair and would not be voted on. If the motion failed, the committee would vote on the P29, the motion with the lowest precedence. So there you have it, the order of privileged motions used at conference. I hope this helps. Thanks.